Issue 43, Combat Patrol. The boys are back in town. The orc boys, that is. Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games, and today we're going to be doing issue 43 of our continuing series of Hachette Collection's Combat Patrol. Now in this issue you get 10 orc boys. Now the orcs are a very fun faction in the 40k universe. Basically they just live to fight. They're essentially the comic relief, and they're very loosely kind of modelled around English football hooligans in that they're just a mob that are out for the crack, out for the fight, and live basically to thump things. Now the issue itself is fairly light on the lower because you have 10 orc boys here. You have a fairly substantial build guide because there's 10 different types of orcs, and you have of course a paint guide for them all. So again, because you have a good collection of paints at this stage, you can get to a fairly good level of detail with them if you're following the Hachette Collection paint guide. It also gives you just a tiny little synopsis here in terms of giving them a unit name and a bit of a characteristic. But as you can see here, their motives are fairly simple. Like if you roll a 1 or a 2, this unit of boys made a bet with another unit that they would kill the largest number of enemies, so they're always keen to get the battle. If they roll a 3 or 4, they fought Space Marines before and are always looking for people who are as tough and as fun to fight. And 5 or 6, they beat their closest rivals in an eating contest, and they still boast and yell chants about their victories over their fellow boys. So again, like it's a kind of a mob fun mentality, and what makes the orcs fun in that aspect is that their vehicles are always kind of hodgy-podgy kind of things thrown together. They're very kind of ramshackle kind of an army. So again, they're fun to build, fun to paint, and you have of course the data sheet here as well, and with some orc unit names here as well. So such as Nagbak or Gork or Dasmak or Glagmak. You also have a scenario here called a Good Crumpen, basically that it sets them up to fight against Tyranids. But again, because it's the orcs, they'll fight anyone, so you don't necessarily have to limit your fight to just Tyranids. You can fight against the Eldar, you can fight against Space Marines, or even some Chaos lads. So I think the orcs call them Pointy Boys. And of course you have here the next issues. So the minis themselves are actually quite nice. This would be the orc knob, so he'd be kind of the section leader. Now, what's good about this issue is you get the standard sprues, so you'll have plenty of other sprues, or not other sprues, but other bits and pieces left over. So there's another issue of Orc Boys coming a couple of issues after this with a slightly alternative build strategy. But you will get 20 boys as part of the actual collection, and you'll have different ways. So you kind of have two different ways to build the leaders, but if you're getting both issues, you might as well follow this magazine's build instructions, because it'll show you how to use the other bits and pieces in the next issue. So again, as you can see, pretty fun, pretty cool. I went for kind of just a leather jacket and dark pants kind of thing. You can kind of put a lot of different colors, so depending on the orc clan, some of them be like, say, the Bad Moons would have, I think, a lot of yellow. The Flash Kits would be very, the Flash Kits would be very yellow. The Bad Moons would be very red. There's different orc clans. I just kind of went for kind of a generic one that was pretty much close enough to the actual color scheme on the magazine itself. But again, yeah, they're just fun to paint. As you can see here, these guys have a kind of an extended jaw that go out over them, so it's kind of a symbolic aspect of rank. You have here an orc skull, so probably the previous boss who he took the leadership position from, and of course he's a big banner on his back with a kind of an extra shotgun for close encounters, no doubt. So he would be the knob, I suppose, the essential leader, and here would be just one of the boys. So you get fellas with shooters and choppers. So this guy, of course, just has his pistol and a chopper ready, along with another kind of melee stick, just to batter fellas with. And as you can see, even from his clothing, they're very ramshackle. They just kind of throw all the bits and pieces together. Now, an interesting thing about orcs, of course, is teeth are currency in the orc world. So if you're short of money, you just beat another fella and take his teeth and use that to pay for it. And they're never short for long, because orc teeth grow at a very exponential rate. So as you can see here, there's 2 teeth on this guy's necklace. So that's probably his purse. Again, as you can see, he's just charging into battle. Now he's a simple kind of shooter and slugger, whereas you shooter and chopper, excuse me, whereas you have this guy now, he'd be just a shooter because he has, well, essentially a rifle. So, and again, you can see here now a tiny little bullet attached to him. So there's an awful lot of nice little detail to these guys. So again, it's these are fun to paint. They are very varied, and there's kind of a lot of nice little characteristics to them. So again, you have here another slugger and shooter. So basically he's got a combat knife. He doesn't quite batter fellas. He's missing his mace. So perhaps he's a bit more artisan with the way he fights and attacks. Now, they were all relatively simple to put together. And again, like, the color scheme is completely up to yourself. Now again, we have another shooter here with an actual helmet. So sometimes you used to have kind of dedicated shooters in some of the old Dawn of War games. I remember there was a dedicated shooter mob and there was a dedicated slugger mob. So again, there seems to be a bit of a mismatch of both here with the boys. You have another guy here with what I think could be a grenade, or it could be just a melee thing, but it looks like he's ready to toss it. But again, some really cool little kind of shapes and ways of putting these together. Now, they are push fit, so there's not much kind of variance in it. So if you buy 2 issues of this magazine, unless you're making an absolute orc horde, you're not going to get a desperate amount of variety in all of the models. I think only 3 of them have about alternative ways of being built. But this one now, I think, is an excellent shooter. When you can see with the rate of fire, with all kind of the spent casings coming out here at the side, and he's literally booting it forward, shooting. So again, accuracy is never their thing, and you can see from this fella as well that he was previously shot in the head. So that's one of the things about the orcs, is their medical care is dubious, to say the least. They normally just hammer something on top of you, be it a kind of a metal plate, or be it a kind of a new skeletal arm, or muscle, or a kind of a robotic arm or robotic legs or anything like that. So it's very ramshackle. Indeed, there is a orc book by a man called Mike Lee, I think, that I can't think of the title of it, but basically the main protagonist in the story was decapitated and his head was just attached onto another orc's body, and he just took over from that body and kept going. So they're essentially not nigh on invulnerable, but incredibly tough to kill, which is why I think they enjoy fighting so much. So again, as you can see, this fellow would be fairly simple to, or fairly similar to some of the other guys, that he just has a sword and a shooter and is flying forward with it. Again, nice fun variety in them. And of course, this would be the other fella. Now, the 2 guys who would have multiple options would be obviously the leader and I think the heavy weapons specialist. So in this case, the instructions told me to go for what is, I think, just a standard general purpose machine gun. But you can have one fella that has kind of a rocket attachment, and I think another fella that would have like a flamethrower attachment. Now obviously you can do some cosmetic changes to the actual guy as well, but it's the weapon that would be versatile in this case. So again, he would be your fire support unit guy in the, or the fire support team fella in it, in so much as to say that orcs would have mad fire support. But again, a really cool little issue. You get a lot of cool little orcs. They're always fun to paint, and I think every Warhammer player has always kind of flirted with the idea of making a section of orcs, because they're just a very fun army to play. So again, with this Hachette collection, it's a nice, easy, cheap way to pick up your first section of boys and to see what you make of them. So as always, this is Sean from The Lucky Roll. If you enjoy these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And until next time, this is Sean signing off.